first input does not work for me.
Good to go.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Wait till we get a picture here. Usually there's a little bit of delay.
Does that say it's recording though?
It is recording.
Okay, let's just go for it.
Okay.
We're good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, so next we're gonna get started. First order of business, roll call.
Mr. Swank,
Here.
Mr. Price,
Here.
Mayor Carney,
Here.
Ms. Davis,
Yep.
Ms. McCoy.
Second item of business is the approval of the minutes from May 15th, 2024.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Mayor Carney,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Okay. Moving to the second part, communication. Start with planning and zoning, Mr. Hutchinson.
Yeah, I have a busy summer, we're already gearing up. We did have a preliminary plan that was originally supposed to have been on this agenda. Had a couple things missing, so it's gonna be on next month's agenda. That's gonna be the Alcott development that's coming in for preliminary, development plan. So next week, or next month, we'll definitely have that. And I'm going to guess we're probably gonna have a couple more on there as well. So we'll probably have a full house next month. And I would anticipate the rest of the year being pretty busy. We've got a lot in the works, a lot happening. Obviously, we have a concept tonight, so eventually this will come to us soon with a preliminary as well. So we're just going to keep adding to that. Hopefully, we don't have too much that we have to break them into a special meeting, separate them. But if we have to, we'll talk about it when the time comes. If we need to add an extra meeting so we're not here all one night till midnight or something crazy like that. Yeah, so, but that's all I got. Thank you. Good to see everyone.
Okay. Mr. White's not here, so I guess we won't get anything for BZA, all right?
We could, if you, Colin, if
Sure.
you got one,
Yeah, we met last Tuesday. We had an application for conditional use. It was related to establishing, there were two primary structures on one parcel, so we were establishing the other parcel as sort of the accessory dwelling units for that parcel. And conditional use did pass, so the applicant is all good to go there.
Okay.
There will be no meeting in July. The application deadline was yesterday, and we did not receive any applications.
All right. And last, council, Mayor Carney?
Yes, we have a meeting on Monday, June 24th, and just a lot of kind of cleanup of second readings that's taking place, talking also about supporting the Ohio Commission for the United States Semi-Quincentennial, so America's 250th is coming up next year, and so getting legislation passed for that to maybe be one of the spotlight communities for it. Our depot project keeps gaining traction, and we just announced the purchase of the caboose that will be along with the depot at Public Square. And
Yeah, it was delivered Monday. We have it over at the Raybar property.
yes. Yes, so that is very exciting to see that come to fruition. Looking at annexation of our parkland, that was the donation land of Ralph Smuckers down on South Chillicothe Street across from Darby Fields. That's coming before council, and also getting our economic development incentive policy in place to make sure that as future development comes in, that council has a policy to weigh all the incentives and everything, and working with the school district, fire department, and all the other organizations that go into tips and incentives. So we are plugging away, looking at our goals, and coming up and starting to talk about 2025 budget. So we will start getting the budget items in place over the summer, and then hopefully to have that starting to be in the approval process by November. So that's kind of the rest of the year, kind of in that second half of the year that is quickly approaching. And we have 4th of July coming up, and the staff has been working really hard of making sure that everything is flowing with the shuttles that will be at the elementary and municipal building to pick up residents and whoever would like to park there. And the parade kicks off at 10 a.m. That is all.
That's it? Okay. Moving into item C, public comment. Is anybody here to speak from the public outside of anything we've got on our list today? Okay. I guess we can close that. Nothing under old business, so we're right into new business. CP 24-1, conceptual plan 265 Jefferson Street. The applicant is Leland Vogel, Mo Development LLC.
So what we have in front of you tonight is the conceptual plan. This location, 265 Jefferson Street, this is the Outdoor FX site. So this is kind of behind, there's parcels, a group of parcels right behind that building where this is being proposed. We have a slide that we'll pull up, but I'd like to introduce Leland Vogel. I think, are you doing the speaking tonight? Yeah. Most of it? Okay. And he'll tell you a little bit about what they're proposing, and you can follow along on the slide. So we got all your slides here, so wherever you want to start.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate the time tonight. We're very excited to kind of bring this project before you. It's been in consideration now for formally for a number of months, but as you guys might know, Lucas and Brian and the community have been working on assembling this site for years. And so what you see there, we'll have a little bit more detail kind of on the architectural side in a moment here, is 3 flex industrial, flex commercial buildings. And these are targeting a wide variety of users. All of these buildings are going to be built on spec, meaning speculatively, so no end user specifically identified. We're excited about the project because we think it provides much needed space for small growing businesses within Plain City to be able to afford them the opportunity to stay within this community. Just as a little bit of a background on kind of the general Columbus, major Columbus area market on flex industrial space, there's less than 2% vacancy kind of across all of central Ohio. And there is, from my estimates, less than about 200,000 square feet of proposed new space of this type going on this and next year. And so there's a massive market need as the community continues to grow, adding all of these large housing developments. There are going to be a number of businesses that need to support all of the infrastructure going into those houses, whether it's new landscapers, new electricians, plumbers, HVAC companies, places for people to be able to have kind of recreation areas as well. Private athletic coaching is a particular area of interest in some of these spaces that's growing kind of across the community. And any other general kind of home-facing or consumer-facing service can occupy these. As a background, flex industrial, flex commercial space, what it really is just an open box, small suite. Think of 3,000 square feet or so that has a bathroom or two and potentially some office, but it's really a blank canvas for a business to be able to go in and establish a shop or build out an office or whatever have you. So we're excited because there's not much around Plain City that caters directly towards these types of businesses. So we think this is going to really help ensure that those companies have a place to stay here in the village. There are a number of these types of developments taking place in Jerome Township, so just over on Industrial Parkway, and we view this as, again, an important economic development tool for Jason to have kind of in his back pocket for companies that are interested in the area, either locating here or growing here, so that they don't leave. They don't take the jobs with them to Jerome Township or to Dublin or to Hilliard. So roughly we have about 91,000 square feet, 92,000 square feet of flex space here. You can kind of get a general sense of the typology of the buildings from the site plan. It's a little bit hard to see on the screen, but can see kind of the individual suites here. Thank you. Every suite has kind of a main entry door and an overhead door in the back. And I don't know if you can zoom in at all, probably not, but what we're proposing are buildings that are very similar in nature to the building that is currently on site. We're conscious that we want to have nice looking structures that kind of survive well and age well within the community. And so the design aesthetic, although simple, we think is a fairly kind of timeless sort of farm style look, which from what we've understood is a part of kind of the community plan for future product. And but it's also these are buildings that are built for utility for the end users. And one of the key considerations is to ensure that as we contemplate how we finish these buildings, that we're doing it in really the most economical fashion that we can. Our target rents for this project are based exclusively on what our capital into the deal is and the cost basis of the asset. So that's one of the key considerations here, is making sure that we're providing good functional space that looks nice and ages well, but that doesn't set a cost basis too high that would make it infeasible for local businesses to be able to afford the rent. So I'll pause there for a second. That was kind of a mouthful, and see if there are any questions.
What do you envision for the scope material? It seems to be depicted as something different than the metal panel.
We have it as metal panel, but just a different color metal panel. So if I don't know if you're familiar with and we'll have a little bit more detail in our preliminary submission, but we have a darker color, more of like what would you call it, a charcoal gray, kind of on the as a water table wainscot going around, and then we have a lighter tan color on top.
The overlay district, right? Old historical district.
No.
Okay, I thought it was on.
Yeah, so with this project, we would be coming in for rezoning of these properties to PUD. B2. Yeah, these were the ones that we actually just rezoned them last year. They were industrial. We went to B2 before this project was known. Probably, we might have waited a little bit longer if we knew this was coming, but anyways, PUD is what would fit in today to allow those flexibilities.
I have received a lot of phone calls. It's not really a question, but more of a comment of people looking for this type of business opportunity, warehouse space in the village. So it is definitely something that it would be, I think, filled very easily.
That's great. We would love to talk to those people.
I'm making the notes here too, like who this person needs to call.
Yeah, no, we would love to. In all seriousness, we'd love to entertain conversations with anybody who's interested. That is the consistent feedback that we hear in communities. It's that missing kind of small middle space that this stuff is actually fairly difficult to develop because it's smaller in terms of the economies of scale than putting up, go south here to West Jeff and you see those big 500,000 square foot buildings. They're hitting incredible economies of scale building those. They build those for a lot less on a cost per square foot basis. They fill them with these national credit tenants that make their asset worth a lot of money. These are going to be filled with a lot of, we'll say, emerging businesses, growing businesses, mom and pop shops. And so that those are some of the complexities that can make developing this space really challenging. Why we chose this product typology is we think it's really needed in the community. So glad to hear that you agree.
And are you thinking, like, I'm familiar with the Just Hoops building. Is that kind of like that type of
Which one was it?
Just Hoops out on Warner Road?
Yeah, so
kind
all of that Warner Industrial that Steve Pagura has developed, very similar to that. There's a couple new spaces that are going on right off Industrial, off Dalton Court and Corporate Boulevard. There's a couple more that are being contemplated, but the demand is just astronomically high.
Can you, can we look up some examples? Do you mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what about I don't know if the Marysville one would be a good example to pull up? Would that be
It's a little bit larger, so, but that is a good one. So the Pioneer Development project that I worked on in Marysville, it is a 50,000 square foot building. That is, it's right off Industrial Parkway. Yeah, I might have a link to it in here, but I don't think I do. That's a good representation. Now, that's a much bigger building. In terms of clear height, that is a building that is set up for docks, larger suites. We can go as small as 5,000 there, but we're primarily targeting that 10 to 15,000 square foot user. If you scroll up just a little bit, the Weaver Court project in Hilliard is more directly applicable, and I can pull up some additional photos of it if we need to. Those buildings are front loaded. These are rear loaded, so that's a big difference, right off the bat. And those are single slope roofs. We have, gable style roofs here just to match the design aesthetic of, I think, what the community, wants to see. But yeah, the really small suites. But the Warner Industrial stuff, that is pretty much it. That would be our direct competition.
Derek, would every suite have to come back in when they do design, or?
No, so the design would be all interior. So the only thing that, let's say we approve this development with these buildings, unlike, used for example, first commercial that we seen was the Spot, where those are going to be individual buildings, users. Each of them are going to be individually different. These buildings are going to be built as is. So when they have a tenant, they'll come in. They'll still have to come in to us to get an occupancy.
Signage,
But as far as their internal wise, that'd just be through the building department. There'll be nothing visible. That we would
you guys have any concerns with it?
They met with us, prior to, there was a sprinkler, it's Tom being there, that's for dry hydrant, we're fine with that, so, they're super, all of this,
Do we have water for them?
So they have already met with Mid-Ohio, and the exciting thing about this one is we don't have to do a main extension, so that means we do have capacity for it today.
Good. It's usually the big concern is, do you have enough pressure?
Trying to see how this connects in the back, because I always talked about truck traffic from 42 over to Bigelow. Is that any way not part of this? No.
The stars and moons would have to align perfect, and
Never say never.
no, never say never, but we would obviously have to obtain property or easements to get across there. I never say never. If you notice, there is somewhat of a stub there, but it would take the village to obtain the right of way, buy the property all the way through there to eventually make a road go through there. I think realistically, probably not. Never say never, but it would be pretty, at least in the near future. So that would all be private. And as we get into engineering, that'd be something that they'll discuss with our engineers, is how that road is designed. If it's possibly never going to be a public road, I would not imagine why would we build it to a public road standard if it potentially may never. So it's just a lot of added costs that may never need to be there. So they'll work with engineers on that. It kind of shows an access to Guy Street there, but traffic from this would not be using Guy Street. We came up with some ideas and some potential closing that off up there, maybe emergency access only, just because Guy Street can't handle any more traffic than it already has. So the access would be off of 42, would be the in and out of this development.
do you guys have with your tenants on overnight parking and things like that?
We will likely have some restrictions on overnight parking, but it'll be more on a case-by-case basis of, if it's a user that fits well into the overall program and what they're doing is respectful, kind of within the confines of the overall development in the community, we'll kind of cross that bridge on a tenant-by-tenant basis. We do not envision outdoor storage for these users. These are, the suites are going to have a few dedicated spots associated with each suite, and our landlord rules and regulations will dictate, what their actual outlay of outdoor area is.
Yeah, so example, we can't really compare it to like we've seen majority residential. They have a zoning text. This will still have a zoning text for smaller scale for its thing. So they'll set up their regs and everything. So we will get a chance to see kind of what their
What is the concern, I guess, would be the question.
Really just people breaking into
Yep.
small part of owner, one of these small businesses where we can't leave vehicles outside. It just leads to more crime of this. If you leave out there, there's people going to start wandering around, right?
Got it.
So resources of patrolling it, or is kind of security of the area was.
We
Mine's on the west side of Columbus, so it's a little different. But it's always a concern to leave anything outside long enough, somebody's going to get nosy, right?
yeah, it's a real shame. The state
It's
of
kind of hidden back there where nobody's going to be able to see it unless somebody happens to be driving through. So.
Yeah, I think the one design element that we have factored in here is our overhead doors are significantly oversized to be able to accommodate pulling in any of the work trucks and things like that. So if we have, say, a plumber or something like that who isn't taking a work truck home, they can park it inside the shop.
Are you planning on street lights and trees and?
Still working through, we'll have some landscaping, it is tucked away behind, way off the road. You're not gonna see this. So we haven't completely landed on exactly what our landscaping is gonna look like yet, but we're working on that